ma del bimbo conviene assicurare sordi. Non ve l'avevo detto, datele voi qualche soccorso, mi struggo dal rimorso, mi struggo dal rimorso. Vedi si ricorda quando la man viene, banale ci crede e fu il profeta lor sorda ai consigli, sorda ai dubbi vivi pensò nell'ostinata attesa raccolse il cuore. Sì, tutto in un istante io vedo il ballo mio e sento che di questo tormento tregua mai non avrò, mai non avrò, no! Andate, il triste vero da sola prenderò.
So what do you think? That's our guest for today. I thought that would be the best way for you to meet him. Now you can meet him sitting here with me. Thomas Potter is an assistant professor of voice here at UCF, and as you see, a baritone, beautiful singer. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so much fun to get to do these kind of shows for me and kind of live vicariously through people with real talent. You know what? One of the things I like to do with these shows is I'll meet people on the street and in the strangest places who will find these and say, oh, you know, I saw this professor and it really inspired me to try to follow my dream because they told their journey. Now, did you always know you wanted to sing?
No, not at all. When I was in elementary school, they came around and said, who wants to be in the band? And I thought, oh, that sounds fun. So I went over and they talked to me about what instrument to use, and I said, I want to use that one that goes like this. So I was a trombonist all through high school. And my goal was to be a jazz trombonist. At that time, you know, the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, they had Doc Severson's band and they featured him every night. And that was my number one goal, was to maybe get in that band. So then it was time for me to go to college, and I picked the college that had the best trombone teacher in the state. I'm from Indiana. And went there to audition in trombone, and my parents said, well, why don't you sing an audition too? I'd sung in church and so on, but wasn't interested in it. And I'm a trombonist, I'm not going to sing an audition. And they said, well, where are your parents? So I said, yes, I understand. I will sing an audition. And so the school offered me a scholarship in voice, but not in trombone.
Isn't that funny? I
Yeah.
bet you couldn't believe that.
No, it was crushing. But I think it's just because they didn't need any more trombonists, and they needed singers. I'm sure that that's the real reason.
Well, you know what? A lot of that for kids today, that a lot of it is what they need too.
Mm-hmm.
So did
You're
you do
right.
both?
I did. I had to call myself a voice major in order to get the scholarship, which we needed. But I spent all my time with trombone and the jazz bands and so on until about my junior year, and then I started thinking, this isn't so bad, and it seems to be coming to me nicely and so on. So that's when I kind of turned the corner and became a singer. I still have my trombone and collecting dust, but
So you were kind of reluctant for your aha moment then.
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's right. But at the same time, a lot of the training for trombone was very, very good, very beneficial in
Because
learning
of the
how
breath?
to sing. The breath and the musicality and things of that nature.
Well, it's really something because it's going to show my, should I say naivete or ignorance, when I was just called you or emailed you and asked you to be our guest, and I started looking at things, and here I wanted to be a music major, and my family said, you're not going to do that because
Right.
you're not going to, my father was a violinist, and you're going to need to make a living, and we can't afford to, you've heard it all. I thought, I didn't even know there was a major in voice. I didn't even know that was such a thing.
Yeah, we have 3 degrees here. We have the Bachelor of Music, which is a performance-centered degree, and that can be on any instrument and even composition. But you can be a voice performance major taking that degree. A Bachelor of Music Education for teaching, and that's what my undergraduate degree was in, because for the same reason, that's the more practical, perhaps, of the degrees, because you can get a job, hopefully, as a teacher. And then we have a Bachelor of Arts degree, which is ordinarily used as a second degree for persons who are in psychology or engineering that also have a strong interest in music and want to continue studies.
Isn't it amazing the wild differences? Like I remember when I was crushed because I had the opportunity to go to Juilliard. But I was good enough to get in, but not good enough for a scholarship, and it's very expensive. And I was just crushed. I thought I was going to be a musician, and my father said to me, because as I told you, he was a classically trained violinist, you go to the nice restaurant in town, and that piano player there has a 1 in a million talent, work their whole life, and no one's listening. And then yet someone can go on American Idol, and within a year have wealth and fame beyond their wildest dreams. But still, you want musicians and budding musicians to follow their heart and their dreams as well. So it's a dichotomy. What do you tell your students? Follow your dream?
Follow your dream and work hard, and just hope that you get the break that you need. Successful breaks come to those who are prepared for them, and that's the best I can do.
They're not singing in the shower when they're discovered.
There's no possibility to be discovered if you don't have the training and are not prepared for it. So
let's talk about the opera program at UCF. It's really amazing to think of these really young people having the opportunity to really learn this at such a level.
Well, when you're talking about classical voice, the only outlay for employment really is in opera. We learn how to sing art songs and German lieder and the French songs and so on as training method, and we have chorus as part of our musical training and vocal training as well. But when you leave college, when you graduate and you look for a job as a singer in classical voice, opera is really the only venue available. In Europe, you find singers who make living going around doing recitals and so on, but here it's just not a viable option. So opera is really key to the classical voice study, and so we're very excited about the possibilities that we have here, and specifically the reason that I chose to come to UCF was the fact that I wanted to be in a big school that had also a high quality opera company in the same town. it's just a wonderful opportunity for students. We have a lot of students who sing in the chorus here at Orlando Opera, and some who do this very small roles in the operas and get into their young artist program, and it's a very good stepping stone for young singers to get going with experiential learning, you know, really being involved in a professional production while they're just learning how to sing in their undergraduate years at school.
Good experience, and also a good way for them to tell, yes, this is what I want to do, or maybe no, it's not.
Right.
Or maybe figure out some other aspect of it they want to do.
Exactly, yeah. We have a student in the music department who is interning in the marketing area at the opera company right now. So yeah, there are different ways of carving out what their real true heart, you know, is directing them. So.
Speaking about marketing and opera, in the research I was doing, getting ready to meet you, I noticed that in the late 90s, early 2000s, opera was really doing quite well. There was like it was a boom time. Mm-hmm. How are things now with the way everything's going?
I'm very positive about the future. Right now, all the arts are suffering, and you know, you get notices of that in the paper almost daily. But I'm quite positive about the longevity of opera in general, and also here in Orlando, because it really is, opera is a very special art form. Of course, you're going to expect me to say that, but it's because it's the amalgamation of all art forms, of instrumental music, of vocal music, of art and sets and lighting and acting and literature. It's just you know, really what's special about it is that it's a collaborative art form.
I was really surprised how well it was doing. At one point, I think they sold as many opera tickets as NFL tickets in 1 year.
That's amazing.
I was like, wow, that is amazing.
I like that. I spent a lot of years in Europe and singing, and before I became a teacher. And there, going to the opera is kind of like going to the movies. It's really just more part of their growing up, and more part of their culture, that people just kind of go in their jeans and go to an opera, you know, or an orchestra concert. So it's a different, you know, culture here, that we have other things that are vying, you know, especially sports events that are vying for persons' times and money, and that's all fair and good. But I'm, as I say, I'm positive about the future here.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. And also, you also have to constantly think about fundraising to keep it going in a university setting, I'm sure.
That's right. Yeah.
So if anybody really is interested, I'm sure you could Google UCF, Google the opera, and you'll be able to help out in any way that you can.
Yeah.
Now, in the past 6 months, you have done 3 major roles. Now, what is that like? Let's see, I've written it down, but just in case I forget, you've been Donner in Wagner, you've been Leporello for Mozart, and Count de Luna
right.
Verdi.
Right.
In 6 months. It was pretty mind-boggling that, do you know them already? Do you have to relearn them? Do you remember? Do you ever forget, who am I? Am I Count de Luna or am I Leporello?
No, that's not a problem.
See, I would.
Yeah.
Which is why
Well, Count de Luna, the Trovatore by Verdi is an opera that I've done several times in Europe and in Indianapolis, several different opera companies around. And I'm fortunate that once I learn a role, it's very easy for me to pick it back up years later or 2 years later or something like that. So that's great, because some people don't have that particular ability. But the other two, the Donner in Rheingold, the Wagner opera that's coming up, and in Don Giovanni, there are 4 lower voice roles. And with Leporello, which is the comic one of the 4, I've now completed what I think of it like a baseball situation where a hitter gets a single and a double and a triple and a home run in the same game. I've done all 4 of those roles now. But that was new to me. Don Giovanni Leporello was a new opera role for me, and it's one with a lot of words to memorize. So it took quite a lot of time to really get comfortable for that. But
now, do you actually, is it in a way, it's a form, as you say, theater and song, and you have to get into the character as well.
Absolutely.
The same way as
there's a lot of background work that needs to be done to do it right.
Do you need to know the motivation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is an acting job. It's just that we vocalize in a different way than an actor in straight theater, we call it. So.
And people don't understand that. In just even little ways, my daughter was in a dance company show, and the man who taught them got up and told the parents, understand that with each dance, they're changing characters. And they have to be a different person each time. And one of the mothers that later said to me, I never even thought of that. But that's what makes a real artist, though.
Yes, that's right. And there's another difference. In opera, for the most part, there are a few operas that have maybe 3 acts, and a singer might be a different character in each act. But for the most part, you're one character for that entire evening. That character hopefully is developing throughout the evening. But when you sing in a recital, each song is a new character. So that's a different challenge for them.
Tell me about this guy here.
Oh,
Because people are probably looking and saying, are they going to ever mention the head?
Well, this is Johnny B. There's an opera by Strauss called Salome, and it's on the story of Salome and King Herod with his father, and John the Baptist. And the baritone part in this opera is John the Baptist. Well, Salome is a bit on the kooky side, one could say, and decides that what she really wants is the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter. So after much cajoling and so on, she gets that. That King Herod has his head cut off and served to her on a silver platter. So the last act of the opera is Salome singing to this head, all bloody and so on.
That's why he looks so unhappy.
Right, exactly. And this was in Switzerland when I did this role when this head was made, and they plastered up my face and made a mold to make his head, and they brought to the rehearsal so the soprano could work with it this head. Well, in that last act, one thing she sings is, "Why won't you look at me?" She's obsessed with him. "Why won't you look at me? Why are your eyes closed?" Well, this particular head, the eye has blue eyes, and I keep his sunglasses on because they are a little bit crooked, so it's a little disconcerting to look at it. And the hat is Ford is another character that I do in the opera Falstaff. So I just keep this in my office. But they came to the rehearsal with this head, and because the eyes are open, everyone in the cast who knew the storyline just kind of started giggling and laughing because it wasn't useful. And they said, "No, that's not a problem. We have the cast, and we'll make a new head." So I raised my hand and said, "Well, could I take you to throw that away?" So
I'm just dying. I'm dying.
You want to see his eyes?
I've got to see his eyes. After you told me that,
they're blue and they're just a little bit off.
He's really creepy.
That's right.
There aren't words to that.
So, and of course they'd have a big wig on him and so on, which I didn't bring, but.
Oh
yeah.
my, that's very.
So that's why
disturbing.
it is, isn't it? So I used to bring him out just at Halloween and have him sitting on my piano.
There's also tubes coming out of his ears. See, if anybody thinks that opera is all seriousness.
This is how he's to be carried
Oh,
around.
he's like a purse.
Yeah, he's like a purse.
Okay, so he's Johnny B.
So that's
it's a good thing
Johnny
you didn't
B.
have to get really into that part.
Right.
That is amazing.
It is.
Well, it's really kind of cool that it was a serendipitous situation and somebody who saw something in you didn't see in yourself that brought you on this route. Now, your wife is also
She's a singer, Kimberly Randall, and she teaches at Rollins.
Now, did you meet her through voice?
We did, yes, in Des Moines, Iowa. She's from Maine, and I'm from Indiana.
And you met in Iowa.
And we met in Iowa. There's a summer program there for young singers, and I was hired to sing a role there in the opera Lucia di Lammermoor. And she was there as an apprentice singing the chorus and doing some scenes, and from there.
That's really amazing. Because, it's not very often you can point to one moment in your life that changes your life so dramatically and directs it. Mm-hmm. It's very cool. Yeah. Now, you together got to go to China at one point.
Yes, we have been invited from our previous institutions. I taught at Indiana State University before coming here, and she at DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana. And each of our institutions had funded our travel to go to Shenyang, China, which is in the northern part of the country, to sing recitals and to teach the students there Western opera. And it was a marvelous, marvelous experience, and I've been back a couple of times. And we actually have now an agreement through that Conservatory of Music and UCF that has gone all the way up and signed by Dr. Hitt and everything, to work from that towards more an exchange program of students and faculty. So we're in the baby stages of this, but we're looking forward to developing that
Hopefully,
program.
hopefully. And as you were talking before the show, that something I didn't realize, you know, you kind of wonder why some people have the gift and some don't. You know, there are, my sister is famous in my family. Everybody's birthday we make her sing because she is completely tone deaf. She sounds like a dying cow. It's just awful, and she knows it. And she would love to sing, but yet I don't have a good voice, but I can sing. And you wonder what causes that. And you were saying sometimes it's the actual structure of your face, that some of these people you met in China have the perfect bone structure?
Yeah, that's right. Just as with any musical instrument, there are really three parts of the instrument. There's a factor of power, which in the voice it has to do with breath. In a violin is the arm pulling or pushing the bow. There's the point of vibration that makes the sound, and that in the voice is the vocal folds, and in the violin is the string vibrating, which causes the sound. And the third is the resonator of the instrument. So in voice, that's anything above where the vocal folds are here, right where your Adam's apple is, that's your voice box. And so the vocal folds are vibrating, and then above that is a resonator. So we can change the shape and so on of that resonator to some degree, more than other instruments. But there's something inherent in certain person's facial structure that encourages the kind of placement of sound, the emphasis of certain overtones in the tone and so on, that fit well with classical singing ideals. And I find that the Asian face and the Chinese face structure, because of the high cheekbones and so on, it's very much conducive to beautiful high placement singing that we emphasize in classical singing.
That's amazing. And before we go, I want to show how the placement of your bone structure, everything put together to beautiful, beautiful work. Take a look at this one other little piece of Thomas Potter singing. Just a little excerpt from Tosca because of that admissions person many years ago. Everybody gets to enjoy your voice and your artistry. And just one last word of encouragement to someone who may be 18, 19 years old, hasn't started vocal training yet. Not too late, huh?
No. The vocal instrument is really one of the last parts of our body to develop. In males, it's still the vocal folds of the vocal instrument is still really developing and settling into the 30s. So it's not ballet. It's not something where you're finished at 20 kind of thing. It's a longer career.
That's so good to hear. Thomas Potter, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for watching. I'm Charna Davis-Wiese, and we'll see you again next time on UCF Expressions.